I've been around a lot of trash talk in my time in competitive Pokemon, and I was even a fairly active participant in my earliest years when I was a very young teenager, because I would participate in these clan wars on IRC with my buddies on Purple Surge, and I know that just gave someone listening to this a massive nostalgia attack, so you're welcome. Anyway, so yeah, it would get heated, and when you're young teenagers, then that kind of stuff is fun. But I noticed a couple of things. Number one, it was stressful. Because trash talking in competitive Pokemon obviously involves the result, and I mean, the whole thing is so nonsensical that even when you win, someone else is going to trash talk you. Oh, you actually played terribly and you crit, or it goes the other way around, and it's just a whole clusterfuck of complete nonsense. And you're just wondering, what am I doing? And no, it's not a very rational thing. It's just beating your chest and yelling at the other guy and throwing mud and all sorts of other really awesome stuff. So it's stressful because you want to win so that you can say, oh, but who won though? But relying on that in this game is obviously really reliable, right? And I mean, we've all had that ladder experience where some guy crits you 3 times in 3 turns and just acts like he's God's gift to humanity, and like you can't even comprehend all the ways he just schooled you. So, yeah, I found that very stressful, and it can even kind of be extended to the competitive Pokemon experience as a whole. Once you really get deep into that tournament iceberg, where it's all about, your winning and your reputation and all that, and then you're not really enjoying the game because there's pressure to maintain all that and to win. And incidentally, this is why I'm such a strong advocate for better tournament formats, best of 3 and things like that, because so much of the competitive culture is steeped in the result, and you're not going to change results-based thinking from the player base at large or the spectator base at large. Spectatorship, whatever, as wrong as it might be. So you just may as well make the experience more competitive anyway, But more on that, once we get into the main thesis of this whole thing. So it was stressful, number one, and number two, I personally found it to be a lot less fun after a while. When you're a young teenager, then yeah, it's exciting and cool, but the experience really kind of wears thin. Especially if you're really actually enjoying the game and you're thinking to yourself, am I, here to tell someone how terrible they are and how much I rule? Or, and if you find yourself really enjoying the process of playing the game, then, that other stuff can feel like a very nasty distraction. Not just a distraction, but, one that actively detracts from the experience. So, yeah, it's because you're here to try and play the game, and it's hard to cut yourself off from that, especially once you're really into the whole tournament scene and part of that whole culture. So that's how you wind up in my position of arguing with a bunch of people of like, dude, why do you have to... So I was originally going to make a video today about the history of rain in competitive Pokemon, and that I will do tomorrow. I was inspired because it was raining outside, and I was going to use the ambiance of the actual rain to supplement it, but then it stopped raining. And as I was looking through replays, then I came across this old number, and I was reminded of this whole affair. And then I also realized that I actually have to be somewhere and at a certain time this evening. So I decided, the rain one, that might go on for a while. This one, I think, has a lot less chance of going off the rails. No guarantees, obviously. Anyway, we're not going to watch this whole replay because for those of you who are watching, you have watched the bulk of the interesting part of this whole thing play out. Choppleberry, HP flying Clefable, and all. Even though it does not even KO Breloom, which is hilarious. Anyway, so we're going to skip ahead. So, whatever you think of the game, I think August great player, but I mean, even great players can mess games up sometimes. So, yeah, he has kind of botched this one just a tad. And it's been a while since I watched the game, though. But that's not really what we're interested in. So, what we are interested in is at the beginning of the game, then here, I'm going to switch over to the battle chat quickly. For those not watching and listening, don't worry. So at the before turn 1, you see the Zappas versus Jirachi lead, and August goes, good luck, have fun, man. And then there's a bunch of spectators like joining in. And then we're going to scroll through the battle log real quick. Not a single line of anything. Now, August and Christo have no known negativity between them, as far as I or anyone else, as far as I'm aware, as far as anyone else is aware. And also, August is just generally one of the nicest guys you will ever meet in Pokemon. Or in general, he's just a great guy. I've known him for a very long time, and I've never known him to be particularly disagreeable. He's one of the most relaxed guys. Sometimes so relaxed, I wish he would get angrier about things, like when someone would screw him over or something. Anyway, so we're going to skip through the last 30 or however many turns. And because the Toxic Latias is going to win against the last Pokemon Blissey. So here's what happens. Turn 154, August says GG, and then Christo drop. By the way, I should make this clear. This is not a call out against Christo in particular. This was years ago. This is really just an example. And I'm using this replay because, I have a strong dislike for where this whole thing came from, but I have nothing personal against any of those people because who are partaking in this behavior, from years ago anyway, because it's a long time ago. So if I had happened upon a different replay where something like this happened, I would have used that. But this one stuck out in my mind, especially because I got into an argument over it after. Anyway, so August says GG, man, and Christo's first response is, how long have you been playing this Gen Bro? And then the all caps LMAO with the 4 O's. And then it doesn't show in the log because I guess the replay just automatically uploaded at that point. But I remember afterwards he said, I started last Tuesday. And then he says GG, of course. But I did not care for this at all. And what's really interesting about it is that Christo's team, the Tyrants, because this was for SPL, the big team tournament, and they were very well known for their trash talking. Now, they are not the first or only team to be known for their trash talking, not by a long shot, but they were a very recent example. And I think this year they finally won SPL, and I think they actually toned the trash talk down by a lot. But for years and years, they were also among the best teams in the tournament, and that's what's so infuriating. That was what was so infuriating about the whole ordeal, is that they were really good, and then they would win, and then trash talk. And then everyone was rooting against them in the playoffs, and then they kept losing in the playoffs, and everyone was really happy. And I remember there were a couple arguments about it, and here's where the core of this whole debate begins. Because after the Tyrants eventually lost in the finals, then people would be super happy because they were just so unbearable and all that. And then I remember there were a lot of, with all due respect to Ray Scarface, who I think is a great guy and a great player, but I remember he would get into arguments with these people, like, oh, why do you guys hate that we trash talk so much? We're just having fun. And then the other side of that debate is, well, it's not fun for other people to have to go through that, as if losing isn't bad enough. And it's like, oh, yeah, well, just beat us if you don't want us to trash talk. And it's like, well, that's the whole thing. I personally fall in the camp of not thinking that being good at Pokemon or, winning in Pokemon justifies, trash talking people. I personally don't derive any fun in beating someone and then, telling them how much they suck or how great I am. Yeah, I get being excited and everything. But I much prefer when, and this is not me being the fun police. It probably is a little bit, but, I have no problem with someone going, oh, let's go, we rule, whatever. But, when they start rubbing it in your face, that's where I find it not the most sportsmanlike thing I've ever seen in my life, let's say. And I would get into a lot of debates about this. Passionate, heated debates where we all just wanted to, well, I'll stop there. But... yeah, so that's the core of the whole thing. And yeah, I mean, you could say, oh, well, don't take it so seriously. It's just Pokemon. So if you're not taking it so seriously, I don't know. I personally like a humble winner. That's my kind of deal, which is why, this is my perspective. For all I know, there's someone out there who says, oh, well, trash talking is actually valid because, it felt, sneeze is coming. Bless you, Kev. Thank you very much. Anyway, so, yeah, I don't really enjoy the desire to humiliate your opponent further. I kind of understand where it's coming from, but I don't want to diagnose the people who do it, because that might be a little out of my depth. But, as if the win isn't enough. I guess it's kind of a simple thing, and I'm really leaving this conundrum in the hands of the commenters, because I would like to hear some other viewpoints. Because it's not like it's a competitive edge or something. Like, trash talking, because your opponent is so mentally fragile that you throw in some trash talk during the game and it'll make them collapse, that I'm actually kind of strangely for. You can call it dirty or underhanded or whatever, but if your opponent lets them throw that off, then, they'll get thrown off by anything. They'll get thrown off by the opponent using Protect and getting mad that they have to wait a turn. Plus, you can just ignore everyone in the battle. So it's completely on you to avoid getting... I remember I was playing someone who had a reputation for trolling in a tournament once, and my manager was like, "Oh, by the way, ignore nicknames during the battle. He knows that you're probably gonna ignore opponent, ignore spectators, but he might try to get you with his nicknames or something." He didn't, but it was good to be safe against that kind of thing. So, yeah, but once the battle ends and then you're, interacting with the community, because it's a nice idea to say, oh, well, just ignore the people who trash talk. It's like, well, do you want to be involved in the community or not? And then turns out, if you're anything like me, the answer is actually no, I really don't, because it seems like a lot of the fun for people is not the game, but getting to be loud and obnoxious after the game. And I say that without any personal vendetta against anyone. Like, for example, CTC, my good buddy for over a decade, big trash talker. I'm not a fan of that, but yeah. If it is like some harmless fun, then I understand. But this was really... I don't think that the kind of trash talk I'm talking about is just... let's compare it to basketball, because I just played today. So, like, something like that... if it's like one throwaway line or something, like a guy makes a shot, he's like, what, you can't guard me, or something like that, then, okay. But that goes away, very quickly, and that it's not really meant as anything more than just excitement in the moment, and because this is where it kind of goes further. So I understand that there's a lot of nuance to this kind of thing. It's not just like one, if it was just one line of, oh man, I rule, then that's something else. I've seen a lot of that where someone will win a really tight battle and then just type, I'm the best in the chat. That, as much as I prefer, a humble winner, than that I'm not really going to knock on anyone for. What I'm talking about is when it turns into like an extended humiliation session where, that's what I'm protesting. I hope I'm being clear about this. If not, then please do feel free to ask in the comments down below. So... yeah, I think that's kind of the whole point I wanted to make. But I also, generally, if you are going to trash talk, I would like to think that whoever has done it would have deserved it in some way. Like, for example, Brofist is the nicest guy you'll ever see in your life. But I remember after he beat Mazar in World Cup 2017 tiebreaker, he told him to take a hike, but that was because Mazar, as we now know, but this was before it was known. He was just accused of... They knew something shady was going on before, so he told him, you can't cheat, you can't win when it matters, so go take a hike. And that is something else, because Mazar was a very controversial figure for that reason, because he had already been caught cheating once. And he was very, very loud about it, the whole thing. And... yeah, so something like that, I understand. But if it's like someone who's never like said a word to you, then I don't know. Anyway, as much as I enjoy drama, I enjoy not being personally involved and seeing as a spectator. So let me know what you think.